Everybody has a story to tell. Every person is so much deeper than, you know, what you see at the beginning. My whole story is almost one of redemption. I think one of the sayings that I used to think a lot, it was the old Dylan line, you know, if you got nothing, you got nothing to lose. And I said that to myself for years because I had nothing, so it didn't really matter what I did. Where I am now, you know, is a function of everything that I've done in the past. If I had done things differently, then I wouldn't be here. You know, when you go to the Chinese restaurant and they have your little animal sign, I'm a rabbit, and the first thing it always says is luckiest of all signs. And I should just tattoo that on my ass, because it is, you know, the stories of my personal luck are many. I started skateboarding when I was around 11 or 12. We were still in the States. I was probably in 6th or 7th grade, and I had a wooden coffin-shaped board with green clay wheels. And I remember just being so enthralled with it because it was like a magic carpet. I was into it for the freedom it gave me to just go and do whatever I wanted to do. We moved to Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. I traversed that entire city of Santo Domingo by skateboard for hours on end every day. And while we were there, skateboarding boomed. I remember seeing an ad that they had just come out with Skateboarder magazine, and that magazine was my Bible from then on for the next 10 or 15 years. And I didn't realize it, but that the same thing was happening to millions of kids all across the country. Skateboarding had absolutely taken off like a rocket. It was, you know, this huge new fad. And there were these guys who were so good at it and so cool that I immediately had aspirations to become a big skater.
The government's not willing to build very many ramps, so you just need a lot of people to get into it. There's been government-built ramps in other places, but none around here so far.
Jeff Jablonski was the fella whose parents owned the property, and he built a ramp originally. Must have started coming here, God, it must have been 80 or 81. I'm not exactly sure, but this is where we started to meet everybody from Virginia and really hang out and skate together more as a group, not just the tote team. The tote team, when I met them, it was a lot of guys who loved skating and loved getting high. And that was the gist of it. I mean, East Coast Tote Team, you can figure there was some getting high going on and a lot of skating. And it was, you know, it was perfect for me. I fit right in. So that's an easy one. It's a much misunderstood and somewhat maligned. I used to ride a board called the Kent Senator Pool, Park, and Pipe model, the PPP. And since I didn't really talk a lot, I would just come over and skate and get high and leave. They, I guess, didn't know my name and would call me that PPP dude. One night we were driving back from Cascade Skate Park in Baltimore, and Heyman, or it might have been Bill Carey, I still don't remember which, asked me what the hell that was supposed to stand for. Poor pissing puker. The other variation is that when somebody would skate real well, it would say, "Oh man, he made me puke, he was so good." And I don't know, but it was really when somebody called me poor pissing puker and beat me up in the back of a car on the way home from the skate park that the name was born. They used to call and ask, Mrs. Puker, is Puker home? So. Ramp skating, you know, is a style in itself. Like you've seen us skating the pool at Olney. You know, we skated pools and we skated half pipes before, but never had we had a place so perfect. Probably the ramp I learned the most tricks on. It went from being a decent skater to getting to be a better skater and becoming a lot more confident in like my ability to do tricks and air and stuff like that. Yep. And it was right in these woods here. This was it. Not a scrap left. One of the best sessions here ever was the very last session, which was New Year's Eve 1984. Everybody knew that it was the last day the ramp was going to be up. I think the Jablonskis finally had to deal with it. I don't even really know why. Probably insurance or something along those lines. And we just skated it all day. It was a great ramp, but it had kind of done its time, and we moved onward and upward to Cedar Crest.
Trying not to worry about surviving the night. All the good moms are crying, they're so dying in a violent light. I'm alright, don't you worry about me.
The Thrasher story was just kind of one of those things. Nobody knew that Glenn Friedman or Ian McKay was going to be at the ramp. So Pat Clark and I have done a doubles trick that we liked, and this guy took a picture of it, and I remember him saying, "That's a cover shot." And we all thought, yeah, well, I'll believe it, you know, when I see it. Then the next thing you know, there it was. When I look back and say what was the peak or the greatest part of my skating, to me personally, I think of, you know, any random beautiful day at Cedar Crest where we had a pretty good session going, and you know, big snake session, and I was skating well. The thrasher cover was great. I mean, that was a huge deal. But I certainly got a lot better after that, and the peak was just being there at Cedar Crest and being there with friends. The best that I was skating would have been up till I broke my leg in September 10th, 1988, and I was skating very well. We had been skating ramps for years and years at that point, but we had Cedar Crest, which was, just a godsend for us in this area, and probably one of the best ramps in the world at the time. So we skated that constantly, and I was a good skater. Everybody else was a good skater too. When I look back, there's so many pictures coming out now on Facebook and everything else from Cedar Crest. And what was always amazing me is I'll look at a picture of a guy that I remember as being a decent skater, and he'll be doing, like an Andrecht or, aerial vert or some great trick. And it makes me realize more and more how good everybody really was. That ramp and those sessions and that gang of those whole crowds of the few dozen skaters in this area really were maybe more of an anomaly than we realized at the time of good skaters.
With any luck, you should be able to get there pretty easily. It's up in this back corner over here. And this is it. And they did a pretty thorough job of tearing it down. I don't see a shred of steel or coping or plywood anywhere. I was a bit of a latecomer. I came, I think, the last couple days that they were working on it and swung a hammer a little bit. And then came back a day or two later and they had the steel on. So all the kids would stand here and all the skaters would be up on the deck and it would just be a free-for-all. This was the focal point. This was the place, The session was here, and then whatever else happened, was peripheral. For me, skating here, this is where I went from what I knew was a pretty good, solid skater to being a great skater. And I think, again, just like Annandale, I think all of my friends would say the same thing. What they learned here, brought them and all of us a whole nother level up in our ability to skate. Was toward the very end of when I was skating, I was actually pulling air 4 or 5 feet out and sailing all the way across the ramp. And that's just a feeling that you'll never get. I don't think I'll ever experience anything like it again. At this point, we're talking 87, 88. I was skating, the best I'd ever skated in my life. But I think I knew, I wasn't going to be pro. I was a good skater. I was not a professional quality skater. I didn't have the consistency, but I loved it. I just loved it. It was, food and water to me and to all of us. And I think that was one of the great things about our whole gang, that it almost didn't matter. Honestly, it really didn't matter how well you skated. That you skated was the whole point of the exercise. That you were part of this gang or clique or crew of people who all loved the same thing. You were automatically accepted into that. Those are absolutely some of the finest days of my life. And, I just thank God that I was able to skate as well as I could for as long as I did. Because I enjoyed every minute of it. It was all great.
The decline was immediate. It was instantaneous. I broke my leg. Actually, Dan Brown broke my leg.
Do you know he broke Tim's leg?
I did not. Hit me and broke his own leg.
This is actually the day that my leg was broken. Actually, that's very similar to what I was doing when I landed and hit Dan Brown. We were skating Cedar Crest, big snake session, which means there's tons of guys lined up trying to skate, all dropping in from the top.
It's mayhem, madness, and typically somebody backs out of the bowl or the pool or the ramp, you know, and lets the other guy run. Well, that particular time, Tim and I, neither one of us gave it up.
We dropped in simultaneously. I was going to do a big air and come across the ramp, and I was yelling at Dan, get off the ramp, I'm coming across. And being good skater that he is, he was like, fuck you, I'm staying on the ramp.
He came over did a big, beautiful alley backside air, and I had done a rock and roll, I remember, and I was pumping down the transition. I looked up and there he was coming over towards me, and as soon as he landed, there was a beeline for each other and there was no getting out of it, and I just balled up and turned into a rock, and when I hit him, he broke in half.
It turned out the front of his board went through my front leg. The break was very, very bad. It never healed properly. Should have been pinned. It was never pinned. It took months before it even started setting. It was painful for about 4 or 5 months. I had to re-break it at one point, and that was basically the end of my skateboarding career. Once I had the leg broken, right, like literally in those same couple of months, crack just stormed through DC, and I was on that train and was buying cop and crack, not paying my rent, and it was a quick downhill from there. The crack pretty rapidly turned into doing heroin, and that was, you know, a lot of years of, you know, boy, talk about having a career. When you're strung out, you have a career, and it's full-time, and it took a long time for that to finally end. The only way I really pulled out of it was going through a methadone program, which completely saved my ass. I guess when you finally come out of it, you just can't sit there and dwell on it, you know. I'm sure I pissed off and disappointed a lot of people, but no one more so than myself. And if you're gonna sit there and worry about all that stuff, you're gonna spend a lot of time worrying. So I kind of just treat it as water under the bridge and a lesson learned, and have been able to move on significantly, even to the point of skating again in the last few years, which has been a lot of fun.
I built a time machine. I'm going to see the homecoming queen. Take her to the Christmas dance. Maybe now get in her pants. Whatever. Back with my high school friends, meeting where the train tracks end, passing round a skinny joint.
took a long time to get over the skateboarding as something negative. And what really made it something positive was hooking back up with friends and them saying, hey, the skate park is only is open, come on up and let's skate. And that's what I did, and it was so fantastic to go there. And I think one of the first times I went up there, friends, old Toke teamers, were in from out of town, from Oregon, and they were on their way to go home, and they found out I was at the skate park and turned around to come back to skate with me. And you know, you can't find friends like that. So that's been by far the most positive aspect of getting back into skateboarding, because I suck. I can't skate for crap anymore. I mean, it's fun and I like doing it, and it's good exercise. But it's great to hang out with the people who have been my friends for going on 30 years, and you know, they never left. There definitely are lessons that skating taught me. Mostly, you know, respect your friends. The camaraderie of such a close-knit group of guys is invaluable, and I don't care where you get it. I think every person growing up should have a friend who's willing to say to him, hey, you're fucking up, don't do that. And you know, when people had to withdraw from me, and I withdrew, you know, I was a lone wolf out there for a long time, but they were there. Like, if I could shape myself up, you know, as I found out when I finally got back out, or back around with my friends, they've been there the whole time. And that's been a huge lesson to me. My whole story is almost one of redemption, you know. It was rough. You know, there's some really, really bad years, and the thing that kept me going was always the thought in my head that, you know, I'm okay. You know, I'm not a bad guy, even when I had to do something, you know, to support a habit. I knew it was wrong. There was never a part of me that was like, yeah, it's okay to go, you know, rip off some dealer, God knows what kind of craziness. You know, it doesn't matter what it is that you're involved in. If it's bad and you know it's bad, you're probably okay, because at least your conscience is telling you the right thing. And just don't ever give up. You know, don't give up on yourself. Some other people might give up on you, and you may think they've given up on you, but you might find out later that they never gave up either. The one thing that I always think about is I'm very happy. I mean, I've been extremely lucky. I've got a beautiful wife who I adore, a lovely home, you know, a good, decent, stable job, and where I am now, you know, is a function of everything that I've done in the past. If I had done things differently, then I wouldn't be here. I don't look back and say, God, I wish I had done this, or I wish I hadn't done that. There's plenty of things I wish I hadn't done, and a lot of things I wish I had done, and I think everybody goes through that. But just like you say, you can't dwell on it. You just got to move forward, because that's the only way time is going.
I tried to pull it apart and put it back together. No point in living in my adolescent dreams. Inspired by true events on movie screens, I am a one-man wrecking machine. Inspired by true events on movie screens, I am a one-man wrecking machine. talking business, I can get real mean. Well, music is my business, it won't save our country. Big men down on Wall Street in their limousines pay their souls for power, and God has papered his dream. So don't forget about the little man down on Main Street. Dreams left town on a one-way train robbery from Wall Street. And by big business, the theft of our nation. Big business, the theft of our dreams. Big business, destroying the ocean. Big business, destroying our dreams. Rolling down to D.C. in the Mercedes Benz. The people's politicians, all in bed with oil men. They say bend over, baby, 'cause we own the world. And on your next vacation, you know you're swimming in crude oil. They all sit back and watch while the Gulf states go down. Can't stop the thrill, it's a circus run by big oil clowns. And then on to big business, the theft of our nation. Big business, the theft of our dreams. Big business, destroying the ocean. Big business, destroying our dreams.